I read a line in a book this morning that said not making a decision is the same thing as deciding that everything should stay the same. And I feel like it was a really good topic to bring up because that is the truth, that there are really three choices you can make when making a decision. You can decide to do the thing or say yes. You can decide to not do the thing or say no, or you can not decide at all and not do anything. And that in itself is a choice. So I know that there can be cases of analysis paralysis that comes in when we're trying to decide something that's really important. It can feel really big and we kind of freeze, and I understand that that can happen as well, especially when things feel overwhelming or just really big and new. And new is scary because our brains are always trying to protect us. So when there's something that comes and steps in from outside of our comfort zone as an option, if our brain can't determine whether it's safe because it doesn't have the experience to draw from to determine that it's safe or not, it will basically put up this big red danger sign, even if it's not, even if it's just something that's new or unexplored. So I thought I would put together a little bit of a list of things that you could do if you were feeling that way and wanted to do something at all about it. And when you're deciding whether to do or not to do, because knowing that indecision is a choice just as much as the others. So the first one, you can consider or write down what will change. If you decide to do the thing, so if you decide to say yes or do the thing, let's call it the affirmative, if you decide to do it. B, what will change if you decide to not do the thing, to say no. And C, if you don't decide either. So if you do nothing about the thing instead of deciding one or the other. So what will change in those three scenarios? So let yourself actually it's a little bit like a pros cons list, but it's not comparative. It's just really exploring the different scenarios as you understand them to be, knowing that there's always more than what we know of anyway. So consider what will change in each of those three scenarios. And then, and this is why it's helpful to write it down so it's a bit clearer, it's out of your head. Then consider or write down what will stay the same. Again, what will stay the same if you decide to say yes or do the thing? What will stay the same if you decide to not do the thing or say no? And what will stay the same if you don't decide either? So if you decide to do nothing. So you're looking at what will change and then what will stay the same. And then 3 is looking at those responses that you found and just looking at going to see what feels scary or expansive or closer to the life that you imagine for yourself. So which of the options feels scary, which of the options feel expansive, which of the options feel closer to the life that you imagine for yourself. Sometimes there is one or two that is all three. And sometimes what feels scary is both. The one that we really want versus the one that we don't want, because it's scary because we don't want to happen. So have a look at those. The next one to consider, this is all your own personal reflections. I'm not here to give you an answer of what you need to do with that from there, but consider, are your thoughts and feelings coming from your concern or coming from your perceived perspectives of others? So the thoughts and concerns or thoughts and feelings coming from something within you, or are they coming from something you're worried about other people will think of it? Whatever the scenario is, something you're worried other people will say about it or worry about it or anything like that. So are they your own, or are they based on what you're worried how other people will react? And number 5 is there more information you need first? So this is a really key one also, because sometimes we just need to be able to ask more questions or have more of a conversation around things before we can decide. And that's totally normal and it's totally fair, right? Because sometimes we just need more information. So is there more information you need first before you can decide? And is there an environment in which you can ask those questions or have that conversation where doing so isn't obligatory and doesn't feel like it's pressure, but more so just allows it to be a level conversation or information sharing that gives you the information that you need to better make a decision? And whatever your responses are to each of them will determine what you then do next. Sometimes once you have become aware of some of those things, it's harder to ignore in a good way, because if you realize that some of your thoughts around the issue are coming from your concern of the perspective of others, then you can really look into that and unpeel that a little bit, or just even having the idea of what you perceive will change and what you perceive will stay the same in each of those scenarios will usually lead you a little bit more into being clearer on what you want. It doesn't take away the fear if it feels big or new, but it does help it become a little clearer so that you can maybe listen to that inner knowing, that inner guidance a little easier, because you've looked at it from all aspects, all perspectives for yourself, rather than just being led purely by the emotion of fear or overwhelm or what's easy or what feels easiest versus what feels most expansive.